This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. A Launceston Supreme Court jury has heard how police found blood on the shoes of an accused murderer who allegedly stomped a man to death in Launceston. Anthony Colin Finnegan has pleaded not guilty to the murder of Peter John Fitzgerald in December of 2016. Our reporter Sean McComish has more.
Police today told the court how they heard yelling and loud music coming from inside a unit as they moved in to arrest Anthony Colin Finnegan in the early hours of December 1, 2016. It's alleged Mr Finnegan went to the unit after allegedly murdering Peter John Fitzgerald at a Kerry Court address in nearby Summerhill. Arresting officers entered the property through a rear window, finding the accused on a couch holding a beer and on the phone. Constable David Leamy said he saw blood on the jeans of the defendant as he was led out of the home, adding, "I noticed there was some blood on the heels of the shoes he was wearing." Fellow Constable Blake Nolan told the court he overheard Mr Finnegan say, "I love you, Mum. The cops are here," just moments before the arrest. Police also described the statements from witness Sean Watkins, who claimed Mr Finnegan had killed Mr Fitzgerald. He identified the accused by name, Anthony Finnegan. He said he's killed a bloke up the road. Last week, the jury heard how the pair had been drinking before an argument leading up to the alleged murder. The trial is expected to finish this week.
Labor's Justine Kay has been sworn into Parliament today after winning last month's Braddon by-election. Ms Kay was forced to resign earlier this year after she was caught up in the citizenship saga. She was among 5 others sworn in this morning. The Tasmanian MP used her first question in Parliament to call on the government to restore funding for specialist medical services. A Tasmanian mother who struggled through teen pregnancy herself is on a mission to help others in similar positions. The Brave Foundation is expanding its programs to other parts of the country to support and guide young parents.
At the age of 16, Bernadette Black fell pregnant. That was 25 years ago. The now mum of 3 says she lacked the support she needed.
I made myself 3 promises at the end of my pregnancy. The first was to be a good mum. I hardly knew how I was going to do it.
So she founded the Brave Foundation to help others in the same situation. Today, that foundation's launching a national trial supporting expecting and parenting teens.
So over the next 2 years, we've been funded with $4.4 million to see 350 expecting and parenting teens go through that program.
10 mentors will be recruited, with each looking after 25 young people.
They'll be mentored from pregnancy through to their child's first year of age, meeting with their mentor on a monthly basis.
The trial will run across parts of Australia, including in Bridgewater, New Norfolk and Clarence Plains.
I think it will really change their lives and really assist them to be able to meet the goals that they had for themselves before they fell pregnant.
Ebony fell pregnant at 15 and says without Bernadette's support, she would have struggled and may not have been able to reach the goals she has.
I'm in my 3rd year of law now and I have a 3-year-old as well and another baby on the way, so I lead a very busy life.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Biosecurity concerns have been raised after a Scottsdale mum discovered a live green frog hiding in a bunch of bananas purchased from Coles. Rebecca Saunders believes the amphibian travelled over when the fruit was imported from Queensland.
For the last 5 days, Rebecca Saunders has had an uninvited guest residing in her refrigerator. The mum of 3 got more than she bargained for after her groceries were delivered on Wednesday.
I opened the fridge to put some leftovers in after dinner and I had to move the bananas. And so I moved the bananas and then noticed the frog and I screamed out to my husband, "There's a frog in our fridge!" So he came running out and helped me put him into a container.
Dubbed Franklin by Rebecca's children, it's believed the Queensland local hitched a ride on a bunch of bananas to the apple aisle.
I was a bit shocked, not every day that you find a frog in amongst your bananas, but then I was a bit concerned as to how he'd made it all the way from Queensland into our fridge.
It's not the first time this has happened, with a similar incident occurring in Launceston this time last year. In a statement today, Biosecurity Tasmania says it has measures in place to reduce the risk of unwanted pests arriving from the mainland, and that frogs are sometimes found hiding among layers of bananas.
I would have thought that quarantine would have picked him up coming over Bass Strait, especially, you know, with the recent fruit fly epidemic.
It's this supermarket in Mowbray where the bananas were purchased. Coles was contacted for comment, and while we've received no response, Rebecca says they have apologised to her. Biosecurity Tasmania has told Rebecca they'll pick up Franklin tomorrow. Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
Part of the Port Arthur historic site has been temporarily closed as facilities are upgraded to help deal with growing visitation. As works get underway on the Isle of the Dead, new tours have been set up in other parts of the former convict settlement, telling tales of those who tried to escape.
The first of Port Arthur's new tours setting off this morning, stepping back in time to give visitors an insight into a different aspect of the convict site.
But it shows you the desperation of this man. They'll go to whatever lengths they need to get themselves out of here.
Traversing through the ruins, guides telling the tales of those who tried to escape. One of those stories, Billy Hunt, who made it all the way to Eaglehawk Neck.
He'd acquired a kangaroo skin which he put around his shoulders one night up at Eaglehawk Neck and attempted to hop past the guards. They saw a kangaroo as a source of fresh meat.
Something different from the convicts and escapees perspective versus the history of the place as well. So you still get a feel for what they were doing. So yeah, it was amazing.
The tour has been set up as another part of the historic site closes for upgrades. Works underway on the Isle of the Dead to help preserve the cemetery and gravestones.
Oh, they're the work of convict stonemasons. They can't be replaced by other headstones. So they're things that the convicts actually tooled by hand, so they're really important to us to look after.
Helicopters ferrying supplies for new tracks, which will help accommodate growing visitor numbers.
It'll be a lot better for accessibility, and it will help us to manage two different groups on the island at the same time.
The managers of the site are continuing to develop a carrying capacity study and looking at other international landmarks like Stonehenge and the Tower of London as examples for how to manage increasing visitation.
It's having it not overloved and making sure that we can actually offer visitors a really good experience when they come here.
In the hopes of allowing more visitors to step back in time. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Train drivers have issued a desperate plea to motorists after two near misses on the state's rail network. This vision from late July shows a mother and two children escaping serious injury or death in Brighton after failing to give way. Tasrail says it was only the quick actions of the driver hitting the brake 3 seconds before that helped avoid disaster. There have been more than 70 failures by motorists to give way in the past year. A Tasmanian animal welfare organisation is pleading with the public to not abandon animals after a 3-week-old kitten was found dumped in a rubbish bin at Lauderdale. A local resident who managed to rescue the helpless and distressed animal was today reunited with the little fighter for the first time.
At 14 weeks old, Mighty Maxine is thriving.
It's the first time I've held you. Hey? And you look so well.
But she didn't receive that name for nothing. At just 3 weeks old, this little kitten was dumped alone in a bin and left to die.
Horrified. Now I'm welling up. I just couldn't believe that someone could maybe do this.
Kim Sablowski was told about noises coming from the bin outside the Lauderdale pharmacy where she works. She sprung into action, but with the temperature just above freezing, the kitten was barely alive.
She was all weak and wet and not really active at all.
And had a body condition score the lowest that the vets would rate. So it was really touch and go.
With dedicated veterinary care at 10 Lives Cat Centre, she pulled through and as of today is ready for adoption.
She just wants some love and warmth.
But sadly, these cases don't always turn out so well. Dumping of animals is common and the welfare organisation is taking the opportunity to remind people there's no need.
There's no fee for surrendering a cat into our care, so there's really no reason, no excuse to do that.
No doubt a happy life ahead for this courageous little kitten.
Yes, beautiful girl.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. Australian shares have continued to slide in line with declines on Wall Street and Asian markets as trade worries dominate. The ASX 200 index fell 26.2 points. Short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 72.9 US cents and 110.72 New Zealand cents.
The TSL, and they're looming as North Launceston's biggest premiership threat. But Glenorchy coach Paul Kennedy says his men aren't getting ahead of themselves just yet. Coming off an impressive win over arch rivals Clarence, the Pies are now all but guaranteed a home final. The Pies last tasted premiership success in 2016, a feeling the club is hungry to relive. Saturday's 31-point come-from-behind win against Clarence, sending a stern message to the rest of the top five and securing the club a second-place finish on the ladder approaching finals.
You know, you've got to be on. If you're a little bit off, things can go against you pretty quickly, so we're not counting any chickens just yet.
And the Pies face a tough task to finish off the regular season this Saturday, up against an informed Launceston at Windsor Park.
We want to carry the momentum we've got, get a home final at Bellerive, so it's an important game and we're not going to be taking the foot off the pedal just because we've had some good wins.
To soccer, and South Hobart will take a nothing-to-lose mentality into their final few games of the year after keeping their slim title hopes alive with a 3-2 win over ladder leaders Devonport yesterday. But the club still need the strikers to crumble in their three remaining matches, an unlikely scenario given the Valley Road boys' dominant season.
We're knocking on the door and hopefully the result yesterday will give us confidence for our remaining three games, and maybe it'll just upset Devonport a little bit.
And the votes are in for the Player of the Year in the TSL after round 20, with Glenorchy's Josh Grant judged best on in the Pies' 31-point win over Clarence. Lauderdale's Jacob Gilby earned 3 votes during his side's easy win over North Hobart, while young AFL draft hopeful Chase Jones was the standout in Launceston's come-from-behind win over the Tigers. To the leaderboard, and Daniel Joseph and Taylor Whitford are tied on top with 16 points, with North Launceston's Josh Ponting 5 votes back. Tasmanian paraswimmer Jacob Templeton is set to return home with some shiny new silverware after claiming 3 medals at the Pan Pacs Para Championships in Cairns. Templeton coming away with a silver in the men's 400 metres freestyle before following it up with 2 more silvers in the 200 metre individual medley and the men's S13 backstroke. And following her impressive performance at the Pan Pacs, which saw her claim 1 gold and 2 silver medals, Ariana Titmus was swamped by Japanese fans overnight. And the Tasmanian team was a good sport about it all, stopping to sign autographs and pose for a few selfies. Well, it's one of the most high-stakes sports on the planet, with the constant need to be at the very top of your game. Alex Peroni has experienced the highs and the lows of competitive racing this Formula Renault season, and we sat down with a young Tasmanian today after arriving home for a well-earned break. From racing go-karts around the state as a 7-year-old to standing on top of the Formula Renault podium in Monaco 11 years later.
I was always dreaming of Formula 1, but I was just, you know, enjoying myself and enjoying driving. I think in karting it was a lot more fun and a lot more relaxed. So I never thought I'd even be at this stage.
Back home for a breather before the second half of the Euro Cup series, the 18-year-old is now based full-time in Holland, trying to adapt to life abroad.
Almost as challenging as driving, I think. The first week was a bit scary, and but I've gotten used to it now, cooking and cleaning and those sort of things. But
following his impressive win in Monaco back in May, Peroni notched up another highlight for the year, rubbing shoulders with idol Daniel Ricciardo at the Grand Prix ball.
It was interesting. He said that when he was racing in my category, he was getting compared to Mark Webber because he won in Monaco as well. So yeah, it's funny that I was getting compared to him now. So. It's cool, and it makes me think that it is possible to get there.
After coming unstuck with mechanical issues during his most recent rounds, Peroni now hopes to finish the series inside the top 5 with the goal of stepping up to the Formula 3 class next year. And the Tasmanian says he's continually overawed by the support he receives from back home.
A lot of messages from my friends and people I haven't even met before just saying awesome job. So. Yeah, that made me feel really good.
Relying heavily on outside support to continue in the sport, Peroni is set to hold a fundraiser at Hobart's Italian club on Friday night before returning to Europe for the next round of racing.
Good evening. A showery day across the state today, clearing early in the north, but the wet weather persisted in the west and south. Hobart reached the state's top of 16 degrees. It was 15 in Devonport, 14 in both Launceston and Burnie. 15 was the top for Smithton today. King Island, St Helens, Friendly Beaches, Maria Island and Ooze all 14. Flinders Island and Lowhead were both 13. It was 12 at Strawn and 7 at Laoini. Looking to the skies, bands of mid and high cloud moved over the state, with mountain wave activity visible in between. On the bigger picture, we can see a band of cloud extending from the ocean south of WA all the way to the south of Tasmania, curving around a low, and some low cloud over the southeast of the mainland. Tomorrow, the high over South Australia moves east with a strong cold front over the southwest of Western Australia. West to northwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots, tending northwesterly through the morning, before increasing to 40 knots about the west and south later in the afternoon. Now we've got a few things to warn you about today. A gale warning for southern and western waters between Tasman Island and Stanley, with a strong wind warning for the remainder of the coast, and a small craft wind alert for the lakes. There's also a flood warning for the Huon River and a flood watch for the Derwent. Now let's take a closer look around the state tomorrow. Hobart becoming windy, partly cloudy with a top of 17. Windy with possible showers for Adventure Bay and Tarraleah. Launceston and Devonport both windy with a possible light shower and a top of 15 degrees. Bridport showers and wind 14. Burnie 14 degrees, a light shower or two and not escaping that wind. 15 the top for both Strawn and Marrawar. Windy in the east, 16 the top for St Helens, Swansea 18, Whitemark a shower or two, 14 degrees. Looking ahead to Wednesday now, showers across the state but less likely over the east coast, snowfalls lowering to 900 metres. Thursday, more showers for western, southern and central areas but mainly fine for the rest of the state. And more showers on Friday but again less likely for the east coast. Now, if you're looking for some sun tomorrow, try Sydney or Brisbane. There are showers for Perth and a windy but sunny day for Adelaide and Melbourne. And here's a look at the current conditions across the state. Back to you, Jo.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that, Britt. We'd like some sunshine here. That's all from the team for now. We'll see you a little later. Bye-bye.